Welcome to the Wellness Roundtable, a new podcast created by the Global Wellness Institute. This is Season 1, Longevity, and I'm your host, Alexia Brue, an exited media founder turned longevity entrepreneur. Together, we'll explore the scientific and societal frenzy around all things longevity, examining whether it's a golden age or a gold rush. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our partner, Fountain Life, for supporting this podcast. When was the last time you really thought about your health before something went wrong? We're living in an age where science and technology have unlocked the ability to detect disease before it shows symptoms and take action when it matters most. That's the foundation of Fountain Life, a visionary longevity center co-founded by Tony Robbins, Peter Diamandis, and Dr. Bill Kapp. They've brought together some of the world's most advanced minds in medicine to flip the healthcare model from reactive to proactive. Fountain Life is redefining what it means to take control of your health using AI-powered multimodal diagnostics that go far beyond the standard checkup and inform a personalized optimization plan designed to maximize your vitality and extend your health span. Fountain Life has been a trusted partner of the Global Wellness Institute for many years, and we share the common mission to empower health and wellness worldwide through proactive medicine, scientific innovation, and technology. This is the future of healthcare, and you don't have to wait for it. So choose to live without limits. Head to fountainlife.com to learn more. That's fountainlife.com, because a healthy person has 100 dreams, but a sick person has only one. Welcome to the Wellness Roundtable. I'm your host, Alexia Brue. Today's guest is Anna Bjurstam, a global force in wellness innovation and one of the rare leaders with a front row seat to both the spiritual roots and scientific future of the longevity movement. As the wellness pioneer, best job title ever, at Six Senses, an architect of some of the world's most forward-thinking wellness and longevity concepts, Anna joins us to explore the convergence of two powerful forces, holistic well-being and biomarker-driven health span optimization. We get into it all. David Sinclair's influence on the mainstreaming of longevity, the key distinctions between wellness and longevity and why they need each other, as well as practical protocols around senescent cells, hormesis, metabolic flexibility, and more. And in a special segment, Beth McGroarty, VP of Research and Forecasting at the Global Wellness Institute, shares 10 minutes of sharp, can't-miss commentary on the emerging longevity clinic landscape. Whether you're longevity curious or already knee-deep in your data stack, this episode is a must-listen in where the wellness world is headed next. Welcome back from Japan. Did you have a good trip?
I had an awesome trip, actually. Japan is a beautiful country. We had our travel advisory board in our Six Senses Kyoto and spent 3-4 days there with them to learn from them a lot about what's happening in the travel industry, what's new, what are they trending, are people booking early or late? So it was very educational. And then we exchanged, they give feedback on Six Senses, how we're doing, etc.
Oh, wow.
So that was super relevant for us.
Oh, that's awesome. And you had time for some karaoke I saw on Instagram.
I did some serious karaoke and some sake. That's also wellness. I mean, we had so much fun.
That's awesome.
If there's anywhere you should do it in the world, it's there.
So, Anna, you have a unique vantage point on the longevity movement because you're truly like the ultimate global wellness insider with a brain that's fluent in both science and spirituality. And I think as we're seeing, many people are using wellness and longevity interchangeably or without any real guardrails or clarity. Can you explain the differences between wellness and longevity?
So wellness is very rooted in holistic lifestyle, natural therapies, whereas longevity is science, biometric, data-driven. I think those are two ways of looking at it. But if you go a bit deeper, wellness is about living well now. It's about a good lifestyle, about feeling good, nutrition, sleep, movement, whereas longevity happens about pushing your lifespan and your health span further. So at the moment, we see that we've pushed our lifespan further, but not our health span. So we spend our aging time after about 63 years of age of being sick. And that's not a desirable old age future. So if we can push that 63 years of age to 65, 70, or 75, or even 80 or 90, we have the ultimate life. And that is a different strategy. You're looking at measuring various biometrics and another strategy. So I would say that wellness and longevity are very connected, but they are also separated. You can't do one without the other, but there's different approaches. And the easiest way to look at it is one is very natural, holistic, lifestyle driven, whereas the other is also lifestyle, but biometric and science driven.
And so as you see it, they're very complementary. You need both, is what you're saying.
You have to be. If you do some senolytic protocols, autophagy, hormesis, which we might get into a bit later, those type of strategies, but you eat McDonald's and you don't move and you sleep terribly, that's not really going to help. And what's even more interesting now is also the inclusion of spiritual well-being, meaning and purpose in all of this. So it is a bit muddled up, but you have to have both wellness as well as longevity strategies, because we also see these very healthy people who get cancer or other diseases, and you wonder, why did they do that? It's because they lived a very wellness focused life, but maybe not a longevity strategy on getting rid of their senescent or zombie cells.
That's great. The wellness industry has traditionally focused on holistic well-being, right? And you cited how data-driven longevity is. So do you see these worlds from a cultural standpoint merging or colliding? Where do you think that will net out?
I think they will merge and collide a lot, and they already are. What's very interesting is that whereas the wellness industry hasn't been that data and biometric driven, and longevity industry hasn't been holistic and enjoyment of life and purpose and wellness driven. So I think that the wellness industry will learn from the longevity industry and have a lot more measurements. And we're already seeing that enter. We're having various biometric screening. We're doing glucose monitoring. And at the same time, the discussion in longevity is that you can do all these biometric and data-driven interventions, but unless you have a holistic wellness approach and enjoyment of life, you're not going to live a long life. So it's really a bit of a tag-along, push-along that we're seeing right now. I think the differences right now is that we are in the wellness industry splashing longevity on anything wellness. A walk in the park is a longevity walk. And we have a relaxation lounger. That's a longevity lounger. So I think it's very important that we in the wellness industry be educated and be true and have high integrity on how we integrate longevity.
You've been a student of longevity for a while now, and you were really one of the first in the wellness community who identified this need to understand and work with what's coming out of the longevity movement. How did you spot this need? And I would love to hear more about the masterclass that you created from seeing what was going on.
Yeah, the masterclass will be with the Raison d'Etre educational arm, and it will be released pretty soon. But what I saw was there's a gap because we see these longevity experts who are very advanced and talk about medical interventions, stem cells, exosomes, peptides, hyperbaric, and other things that are very data-driven, whereas the wellness has missed that boat a bit and then are trying to talk about longevity without having the proper education. So there needs to be an education. And that's why I've put this masterclass together of very step by step. What is the difference of wellness and longevity? It's looking at what is the vocabulary and strategies of longevity that differs from wellness. What are the data points? What are the hallmarks of aging? What is the cell biology and mitochondrial biology, so to speak, of the cell, to understand those, but in a very simple way so you can easily understand how can we integrate that in the wellness industry without going full medical. And then also it's going to be a part of like, how do you integrate it into your daily life as well? There's going to be different business models. And I think at this point, I've worked with quite a few of the business models that you can marry wellness with longevity today. What we're seeing with the longevity clinics that I'm part of building at the moment is that they are incorporating a lot of wellness into the clinic. So you don't want this white medical clinic. You want it also to be very warm and enjoyable and pleasure-based. So we're seeing emerging of that, but there is definitely all of those aspects will be covered in this masterclass, but in a very easy way to understand what longevity is and how it differs from wellness and how you can approach it from a business perspective and also from a personal perspective.
Amazing. I wanted you to share some thoughts that we talked about before around the influence of David Sinclair's book, Lifespan, and how it moved these topics from the academic world into the mainstream.
Yeah, David Sinclair's book came out end of 2019. I remember reading it early 2020. And it was the first time it really looked at lifestyle interventions and not just scientific biometric data to look at longevity. And I think his book really opened up this topic to a wider audience. Although his book focuses on sirtuins, and that's also what feeds the sirtuins is NAD. So that book also started the whole NAD craze. So it's really opened up. But at the same time, it's also one part of longevity. Longevity is a bit wider, but it is an incredibly good book. And I loved reading it. And it definitely got me interested in longevity.
I think it's really helpful to sort of timestamp in that way when longevity entered the mainstream. And I think that, that book and then his podcast was a huge moment. Can you touch on some of the pillars or the science that you think it's really important people in the wellness world understand?
I think one of the main thing is the senescent cells or the zombie cells that we have roaming around in our body, and they accumulate. And if we don't clean them out, they are the main culprit of aging. So they causes us, and they are the cancers, the Alzheimer's, and other autoimmune diseases. So we need to have a cleansing system, which is strategic. And that cleansing system is called autophagy. It's meaning self-eating, and it can also heal damaged cells that are becoming zombie cells. So literally, it's a cell cleaning strategy that you need. And there are various ways to do that. And one is that there's a longevity gene called mTOR. I often look at it as the Viking Tor, the god. And the god of Tor is very muscly. So mTOR is what is responsible for building muscle. But when we're building all the time, we're not cleaning. So we need to have a strategy where we downregulate mTOR, and we do that by not eating protein, because what fuels mTOR to build muscle is protein. So we need to eat maximum 20 grams of protein per day if we want to do autophagy. And also most of the day should be fasting. And that way we downregulate mTOR, and then we do a cell cleaning. So these are very basics. And then you can speed up recovery or autophagy with something called hormesis, which is short bursts of stress. That can be sauna or cold plunge, intermittent fasting, sprints, and other things that will stress the body so it can be stronger. So these are the very basics that you need. You need to understand some cell biology, something about mTOR and sirtuins, which David Sinclair is, and how they interplay with autophagy and senescent cell protocol.
And the autophagy protocols, those are like cyclical things that you would do in a certain defined period of time?
Yeah, I would do it maybe every month, a 3-day protocol of autophagy. I do maybe a bit more hardcore because I'm used to it, and do a water fast with infrared sauna, compression boots, some potential cryotherapy. So that's what I use. And then long walks and no intensive muscle training. So I do that maybe 3 days a month. But I would say even if you do it once a quarter, and you can also alternate it where if you can't do a 3-day water fast, you eat a vegan meal per day, or even 2 smaller one and in like a 5-hour window, and you can fast the rest of the day. And you do this for 3 days. And that is an excellent autophagy cleansing protocol. And also,
Mhm.
we should know that every night when we sleep, we also do autophagy, but it depends on how we ended our evening. If we ended it with karaoke and sake and lots of protein, maybe not the best autophagy. But if we do what we know that we're supposed to do, then you can get a really good autophagy every night as well.
Interesting. And you're one of the few founders who has created both wellness and longevity retail hospitality concepts and have done so across the globe. So it'll be interesting to hear like how things are differing country to country, and what are some of these concepts that you've worked on in Australia, Ibiza, and Sweden. Maybe we start with Sweden and what you've built there on the longevity front.
So Sweden, I've built a club called V Social Club, which is a longevity club, but it's also very rooted obviously in social. But there we have done a business model where we're not a medical facility, but we are able to do blood tests in the lab around the corner. And we have tied together a lot of medical experts, whether it's gut, stress, hormones, that we refer our members to. But we have a system where we do blood glucose monitor, Aura ring, looking at HRV and other aspects, do a intake from a functional medicine expert, and then we create programs and looking at senescent protocols, biohacking protocols, wellness protocols in order. So that is working very well when it comes to lifestyle intervention, but it's also cultural because medicine and lifestyle is very separated in Sweden. So you have to look at that, and medical licensing and what you're able to do is different from example what you can do in Spain or even Norway or Denmark that are close by. So every country is very country specific. Then if we go to Ibiza, you can do a lot, or in Spain, you can do a lot more, but it needs to be medically rooted. So there we have a full medical team on site that whenever you do an IV, they also assess you and prescribe you the IV, which is not the case, for instance, in the US, where you don't have to have a prescription. So you have to look at I would say the most complicated thing is to look at the medical regulation and licensing. Whereas in Ibiza, what we've done there is that we've created Rose Bar, which is a super cool longevity clinic where we also have a lot of biohacking intervention. And then we have a Six Senses wellness facility that do the personal training and the sound bath and other interventions. So that is two different third-party facilities, so to speak, coupled together to cooperate, where one is medical and we can do medical intervention, and the other one is also driving the solutions with all the various interventions that we have in there. And then we've looked at Australia, and Australia is interesting because it's a completely different culture there. People are very close to nature. They want more very authentic experiences, real experiences. And not that much medical, but there we're creating, and it hasn't opened yet, a combined medical longevity and wellness facility all in one. And we're seeing them starting to pop up, but they need in Australia a bit more. It's been a very underdeveloped market in this space, but it needs to be a lot of nature because it's such a nature country. You need nature, you need simplicity, you need joy of life. If it's not fun, it's not interesting. Whereas sometimes in the US, if it's not medical, it's not good. So you really need to look at what the different aspects of culture is and how you implement it and what the medical regulations are.
So going back to the Swedish versus Ibiza one, so the V Social is something that people are accessing as part of their day-to-day life, right? Versus Ibiza is more they're on vacation.
So this is a longer lifestyle interventions where you interacted on a daily basis, and it helps you with your recovery also, because what we're seeing with longevity, and you can look at all these biomarkers, but what we've seen so far is that stress is the number one challenge. So recovery is becoming very important. It's like for me today, I got off this morning on a plane from Japan, a bit jet lagged. I went in and did a cryo and a red light, and that completely helped me recover in a different way and changed my day. So that's one way to do it. If I then have a problem sleeping tonight, I might go in and just pop in and do an infrared sauna because I know that will help with my sleep. So these are various ways on how you work with it when you have a special intervention like jet lag, but on a daily basis. It's a long-term everyday strategy that we work with. Whereas in Ibiza, you go in for 1 to 2 weeks of doing a reset. So it's really igniting those longevity markers that can help you work on autophagy and work on upregulating mTOR, and then doing that for a short period of time. So it's a longevity intensive, and that will get you on the right track. And then will help you afterwards to stay on track. But you need to do it on a daily basis. It's like you can't just go to the gym for a week and then you don't have to go to the gym for the rest of the year. So preferably you would have both, but often it's difficult to do in the city because it's about those daily rituals and habits that you stack up. So it's really good to go away and just get a kickstart and then continue it back home.
And it's cool to see the two different concepts both being really successful. They're both needed, the sort of reset, reboot in a destination experience, and then the day-to-day when you're at home. What have been the learnings with V Social in terms of how people are interacting with the different things being offered and whether they're embracing the data? What are the learnings and surprises from being open?
What's been the learning is education is key, but at the same time, they don't want too much education. They just want to be told what to do. So you need the expertise there. And then after a while, the ones that are interested catch on and they can kind of manage themselves and understand what to do when. But it's really important to have the expertise, not just for a consultation, but every day they come in and they can say, oh, I'm feeling like I'm getting a cold. What should I do? Okay, go in and do PMF at a low dosage today, just 15 minutes, and maybe some red light, definitely no cryo. And looking at how do you work with this on a daily basis. So you need the expertise. And I think it's in our Western world that we've so been used to a doctor, an expert telling us all the time what to do. But we are also seeing that we have a challenge of making sure that people take their own responsibility of their life and what decisions that they make, because they know their body. We cannot just listen to the biometrics. We need to listen to our bodies. And that's something that is not easy for us to do because we haven't done that for the last almost 50 to 100 years, I think, where it's all been about you can do whatever you want. You don't have to listen to your body. And when you feel that something is wrong, you go to a doctor who tells you what's wrong. And we've seen that does not work. So I think what we're seeing, the biggest learning is education is key, expertise is key to lead and to slowly, very slowly educate. And there's also big skepticism. So you need to give it science, and every intervention that we're doing there is very scientific. Then we have sound bath and meditations where people just feel good, because it's equally important how you feel when you do things. We have this that wellness and longevity has to be pain. We have to give something up, but it doesn't have to be that way. And that's why we do the social aspect. And if you do it together, and if we do classes, if we do other interventions that are also fun, and that they understand that a cryotherapy, it's not suffering, it's actually what's going to reset your body. And it gives you a 300% increase endorphins. So your brain will be on fire for 6 to 7 hours in the day. So what you produce is going to be so much better. So when you look at how pleasurable that is to have an active and clear brain, then that's actually pleasure. And that's what we should focus on, not the suffering of going in for 3 minutes of cold and how bad it is. It's that delayed gratification that we talk about when we talk about habits.
I'm curious, Anna, are we going to see a governing body of some kind come in and standardize how treatments like hyperbaric or red light therapy are administered?
I am not sure we will in the near future. I think it's its own responsibility, because if we just look at IV, which is more medical, it's all over the place, all over the world. So it's different strategies. There's no common knowledge, but there is a responsibility. And what I'm seeing right now in the spa and wellness industry, that some are doing it really well, but some are not. So for instance, if we look at red light therapy, we know that the receptors of light in our cells hits just below the surface. They are full after 20 minutes, and more than 20 minutes is harmful. So that actually becomes a negative response and too much stress to the body. So it is very important that the people who are doing the red light, and I would say that 9 out of 10 has no idea about this, and they're thinking that more is better. So it's much red light. Let's be in an hour in the red light. We're seeing that people doing intermittent hypoxia training or cell gym, which is high altitude training, and then doing a cryo afterwards. That means a really high stress on the body and another high stress on the body it becomes negative and not the positive effect. So you're basically wasting and not working with your body. So unless you know this as someone who offers these services, and people do not know it right now. So I think, again, education, and then communities like Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute to provide guidelines on how to use it, because it can actually be harmful. And more is not always better. Less is more, and very focused on what you want to achieve and how long. It's the same with, I hear people are doing like 15 minutes ice bath or being in the cryotherapy. Then the hormesis effect of a positive stress is too high. It's like if you go in and do a very heavy weightlifting for 3 hours, that is not going to build your body out. It's going to break it down. So the same thing is here, is to understand how much is enough, how much is harmful, what do you put together. But there needs to be guidelines coming out rooted in science.
Yeah, and there are no standards. So it's another thing, as you said, the Global Wellness Institute could take on, because these worlds are coming together.
They are. And again, as I said in the beginning, we have this beautiful push and pull with data and metrics. So we just have to embrace it more in the wellness industry, and the longevity has to embrace the spiritual well-being and the interventions of music and what that does for our nervous system and other things that makes the medical longevity become more pleasurable.
I think that's a great point. So Anna, being in this seat and playing host gives me such amazing access to brilliant, thoughtful people like yourself. And people always want to know, what is your personal approach to longevity? What are those practices that have made the biggest difference for you?
I have a practice where I every morning do a meditation. It is anything from 5 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the time. I get up at 6 a.m. I go to bed at 10, which has been really difficult for me because I'm a night owl. But I've trained myself, and I feel so much better, because if I get up at 6, I can do my meditation, and then I can go and do whatever training I want to do. I hydrate so I do my meditation, I do hydration, do 5 minutes of stretching just to wake up the body and kind of align it. And then I go and do a workout, and then I start my day after that. And then one of the most important things that I've done is that I block out my calendar 2 weeks in advance, always, on when I'm training. If it's in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, whenever it is, depending on the day. And I also put in what biohacks do I do if I am in Stockholm. But here I have, with the V-Social, I have cryo, red light, infrared, Celgym, PMF, all of these various. So I know that if I need my brain to be sharp, probably go and do intermittent hypoxia, high altitude training together with red light. If I do a really 2-hour hard paddle game, I will do cryo and compression, and I will increase my recovery with 40%. That's huge. So it's having these rituals in the morning. Also, one of the most important things, because I think we have a brain tiredness today, is that I set 2 alarms every day. One when I wake up, and the next alarm is either 30 or 60 minutes after I wake up, when I am allowed to look at my phone. Because if we do look at our phone, the first thing we do, what happens is that we get brain tired, and our brain never gets up to even its normal capacity for the rest of the day. So in the first 30 minutes when we wake up, we get as much information as we did in a whole week 50 years ago. And our brains have not changed. So these are a couple of hacks that you look at. Meditate, don't look at your phone, hydrate, do some stretches, and then get on. And all of that can take 20 minutes if you need to. Or it can take a longer time, depending on how much time you have. But all of us has 20 minutes in the morning, unless you overslept, and you can do that. And so I think those are things to get started. And the same thing when you end your day. It's really important to look at, what's your strategy? When do you stop eating? When do you start looking at your phone? Making sure that you don't sit and work until you go to bed, because then you won't sleep well. And understanding what triggers your sleep and what doesn't. That is very important.
Totally. What are the emerging research or technology that excites you most?
There's a lot of interesting oxygen research and how oxygen impacts us. We need oxygen in every cell of our body. We are working with Oxford Longevity Project, which is a nonprofit organization on longevity, to get the right intel of what works. And they're also very lifestyle intervention focused. So I think that is is really important and interesting. I think the supplementation industry are just booming, but that costs a lot of money. But you do need to have some basic supplementation. And we're seeing that, so to speak, with magnesium and vitamin D, vitamin C, iron, if you're iron deficient, vitamin B. These are things that you need, but then you can get a lot more longevity focused using resveratrol and M&M and MR. So these that are NAD precursors to help you increase that. So I think we're seeing a lot of science going into that. And then we have the technology bit, the red light, infrared, and blue light and green light, that spectrum, because if we were outside as we were before, we won't need most of these things. But today we spend 90% indoors. So if we are out in sunrise and sunset, then we don't need the red light. We get so much better red light naturally. But what we're doing with a lot of these intervention is mimicking if you would have been out in nature and to get that in the city. So we get all those nutrients that we get from nature normally. So we're seeing that an understanding of this is also one of the emergent techniques. So oxygen is super important. I do think light therapy is very important. And the hormesis aspect on how we stress our body with cold and hot therapy are booming at the moment. And then we have all the more scientific research. Stem cells is a big controversy at the moment. Do we use stem cells? Do we use our own? Do we use someone else? Do we have umbilical cord? What's the risk? What are the rewards? How do we use it most effectively? Do we pair it with V cells and exosomes or not? And I can tell you, I've seen some panels, the scientific industry is not agreeing on this. So that's something that we're going to see a lot more of in the future, because a lot of research is happening in this, but they're not agreeing on what is the right way forward.
What do you recommend given how fast changing the science is?
My number one recommendation is that there is one source that you can get more information than anywhere else in the world, and that's listening to your own body and what it needs. And doing that when you wake up and feeling like, if I am really tired today and I feel that my body's tired, maybe I shouldn't go and do a really hard exercise in the gym. Maybe I'll do a long walk instead. So these are the things that I think that we've forgotten, is to listen to our body. That's the number one scientific advice I can give you, and everyone agrees on. It's also very cheap. It doesn't take that much time. It just needs that you get tuned in. But again, I would say that there are these databases, and Global Wellness Institute has one really good scientific, if you go into their website and to look at. So then you again have to look at trusted sources. Now we do have AI happening, and what you need to do, instruct AI to do, I have learned though, is to say, I only want scientific results, because AI can sometimes bake things and make assumptions. But if you tell AI to say only scientific validated results, then you get, so that's the easiest way today to get information, but that's not from a single source. They look at what data is out there and then they compile an answer. But for an everyday person and even a spa or wellness operator where it's not medical, I think that is good enough, because you get an indication on what is safe and what's not. And they will always tell you, AI, to say, don't do this without a doctor's permission. And then you shouldn't. But where they said this is a general consensus of how you use NAD and where it's good or not good.
And I think you hinted earlier in the conversation that we're going to see a lot of AI products around longevity, where it will ingest our own medical data, wearable data, and start to give us recommendations.
It is so cool. How I use wearables is I use it twice a year. One time in the spring, one time in the fall, for a couple of months. And I do blood tests and Dutch tests and all kinds of other tests that I feel that I need to do together with wearables, get a good understanding. And then I spend the rest of the year of just listening to my body and understanding where I need to go, because I already know like what a good night's sleep and a bad night's sleep, and I've got the information. But I can also easily key in and say, I feel a bit tired and this has happened and this is how my day looks, because no wearable can show this, but AI can help you with that. And then in that way, you can get a really good information on what you should do every day.
I love that idea of not having your wearables all the time, but doing it seasonally. And my last question, Anna, that I ask every guest is, how do you balance the pursuit of longevity with the desire to enjoy life and its various indulgences?
80-20. I would say it works. You try to do the best you can 80%, but you don't sweat. We're seeing so many people becoming completely anal, if I may say so, about their wellness. And if they don't do their meditation or their ginger shot or whatever it is that they have, then their day's ruined, or they don't get a perfect sleep score, or whatever it is. I think you have to take it not too seriously, have fun and enjoy life, be social. As we said in the beginning, my karaoke night, I did not feel the best the next day, but I can tell you it was so worth it, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. And we had so much fun. And so it's just about enjoying life, having pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
We know that curiosity, being positive, having purpose adds more life to your years than any other physical intervention. If you don't deal with your traumas, you're actually dying 20 years younger than you need to. So there's all of those things. You need to just enjoy life and deal with traumas,
Mm-hmm.
and don't sweat the small stuff, and just try to do the best you can.
Anna Bjurstam, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Alexia. I think this podcast is so incredibly important to spread the knowledge and understanding of longevity. So really honored and happy to be on.
Thank you so much. And Anna, I mean, there's no more perfect guest than someone who really straddles the wellness and longevity world. So thank you. Now we turn to the Global Wellness Institute's Vice President of Research and Forecasting, Beth McGroarty, for some insight and commentary on what we just learned. Beth, we were just talking to Anna Bjurstam earlier in this episode. Anna talked about a lot of the new longevity clinics globally. She started one called V-Social in Stockholm. I would love to hear what's on your radar in terms of longevity clinics.
Yeah, you could never paint the picture of all the new longevity clinics, the programs at resorts, and the new longevity gyms. Fascinating. This is the fastest growing business genre in wellness. I've read that there's over 1,000 longevity clinics worldwide now, and longevity-focused programming at resorts is the trend in wellness travel. So on the destination side, you're seeing powerhouse longevity resort players on a major expansion march, like Clinic La Prairie, which is all based on DNA testing, programs for customized interventions. I mean, they're planning 40 new urban medical wellness longevity hubs all around the world. So that's more on the day side, but then they're also building big medical longevity resorts. They just opened in China. Another's coming to the Amala development in Saudi Arabia this year. I mean, you got the same thing going on with Shaw Wellness, which is from Spain, famous medical wellness longevity resort. They've just opened in Mexico. Another big resort is coming to the UAE this year. They do everything from advanced diagnostics to cognitive stimulation. Canyon Ranch just launched a new longevity 8 program. Tony Robbins and Sam Nazarian are launching the estate hotels and residences. They say they're going to launch 15 longevity-focused hotels and residences and 10 urban longevity centers by 2030, within 5 years. They're partnering with the diagnostics company Fountain Life and Clinique La Prairie. And I think it's interesting. You see so much collaboration in the longevity space. It's how people scale up.
Yeah.
So that's on the resort side. But you could talk about Lanzerhof and Chanel Palace and Sensei. I mean, there's so much going on.
So then on the urban longevity clinic side, which I guess you could say the day spa of the longevity world, we're seeing new concepts there as well. So I'd love to hear what's on your radar for those urban centers.
Yeah, there are hundreds of them, most on the membership model, often pricey, sometimes eye-wateringly so. There's Seren in London, which is a swanky 4-story longevity clinic that opened. Has functional doctors, diagnostics, hormone tests, microbiome mapping, epigenetic testing. So it looks like an old day spa, but it's a longevity clinic. Whole Foods founder John Mackey just launched Love.Life in Southern California, which is all about wanting to be a one-stop longevity club. They have doctors, whole slates of practitioners, in-depth diagnostics, fitness. Globally, the UAE has the Longevity Wellness Hub. I think what's interesting is how this is centered around gyms. exercise being a pillar of longevity. But these new longevity gyms, these medical wellness gyms, it's so surprising to me, with diagnostics and doctors. I think it comes from people. There's a growing consumer segment that wants to live and test and train like an elite athlete. But you see a lot of moves like Lifetime Fitness, the US brand, now has Myora longevity and performance clinics that do diagnostic testing, weight loss drugs, hormone therapy, personalized wellness plans. Obviously, we think everybody read that Equinox launched a $40,000 a year longevity program last year, and they're using Dr. Mark Hyman's function to deliver all the biomarker and longevity tests. But I think, it's like what's happening in fitness is interesting. Like Technogym has relaunched itself as Healthness, and it's signaling a shift to healthcare, prevention, longevity, and prescription exercise, and obviously away from wellness. But their new machine checkup lets people test longevity measures like balance, mobility, body composition. So even at the gym level, the fitness equipment level, there's a huge shift towards fitness becoming like a prescriptive model and a healthcare model. So I think that's interesting.
Peter Attia's book Outlive came out a few years ago, and he said exercise is the most potent longevity tool that we have. And he got very prescriptive around how people should exercise, the combination of strength training and VO2 max and zone 2 work and stability mobility. And I think now we're seeing a lot of people in the fitness space take those guidelines that he and other researchers and scientists have shared and like putting it into practice. What surprises you about the fitness sector embracing all of these new quantified self aspects?
Yeah, I guess one didn't think of the gym as a place where you would have advanced diagnostic testing and prescriptive weight loss drugs and hormone therapy, pharmaceuticals. So yeah, refashioning the gym as opposed to the wellness center as a place of healthcare and a place where exercise is being bolted on to healthcare and away from wellness. So, I guess I found that a little surprising, although it's people's third place. So,
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Why not wrap it all up? But yeah, I guess I never predicted like a 4-story gym with like longevity clinics.
Beth, in terms of the regulation and the guidelines that we need to have around all of these new treatments from IV to hyperbaric to red light, where do you think these guidelines and regulations might come from? Any thoughts on that?
There's a real need for more regulation. You think about the old wellness space, like yoga, massages, fitness. They weren't really likely to harm or kill people. Death by yoga, not common. But what's happened now with the flood of all these more invasive, potentially dangerous, even deadly biohacking solutions like IV drips, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, cryo, the regulations have not kept up with market realities. Western European countries have more regulations, but it is a wild west when it comes to longevity and med spa treatments, supplements in places like the US and Asia. Think about it. A 5-year-old Michigan boy was incinerated in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in January.
That was a horrific thing to read about. And similar things have happened in cryotherapy.
And IV drips, whether you think they have any value or not, they can cause serious injury and even death. And doctors are seeing more serious infections in ER rooms from them. In the US, there's no federal regulations for med spas or these biohacking clinics, no regulations for cryo or IVs. It's up to the state. So they say, there has to be a medical professional on staff, but it's not really enforced. We need a baseline, consistent regulations across all states in this country. It would be nice if they were wider than that across countries, but I really don't think we have any roadmap or guidance here in the wellness world, because what the biohacking and longevity space is doing with these treatments and technologies is just unprecedented. So it's not medicine and it's not wellness. So it needs a whole new rethink.
Yes. And as you pointed out, this has all happened and picked up a tremendous amount of speed so quickly. And it will be interesting to see who that is or what entity comes in and regulates. And for right now, there is a lot of value to many of these treatments. But as a consumer, you have to be super, super careful and do your research about the practitioners that you're going to. Beth, this was, as always, a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for stopping by the Wellness Roundtable, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Alexia.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Wellness Roundtable. This podcast was produced by Emily Roberts and Ali Alkiza of Over Lunch. Music was provided by Mindstream. And a very special thank you to Susie Ellis, Nancy Davis, and the entire Global Wellness Institute team. As we wrap, it's important to remember that while this podcast is filled with valuable insights about the latest longevity science and innovations, it is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Our conversations are designed to inform and inspire, but should not replace the personalized guidance of your healthcare providers. If today's episode sparked your interest, please subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, and share it with friends. To learn more about the Global Wellness Institute, please visit our website, globalwellnessinstitute.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.